If you've ever seen one of my videos, you'll know that I have a passion for two things: Disney and musical theater, especially when the two are combined. So much so that my favorite musical of all time is The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which totally should have made it to Broadway, but I digress. As you can probably guess, Alan Menken is one of my favorite composers of all time. However, he isn't the only Disney composer I have a deep fondness over. I also adore Robert Lopez and his wife Kristen, who you probably know from musicals like Avenue Q and Book of Mormon and films like Coco and of course the Frozen franchise. Frozen, however, was not Robert and Kristen's first job with Disney. Far from it, actually. A little known fact is that they wrote the music for the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie. But today, we're going back to the early days of Animal Kingdom. On November 5th, 2006, the soft opening for a little-known musical based on a massive Pixar hit was opening at Disney's Animal Kingdom. The musical was based around 2003's box office baby, Finding Nemo. The musical was aptly named Finding Nemo the Musical. While the show didn't officially open until January of the following year, audiences immediately loved the 40-minute adaptation of the Pixar film that was quickly making its way into many of the Disney theme parks around the world. The show still ran up until 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic, but Disney is currently working on a plan with the Actors Union to reopen the show as I write this script. Its home is in Dinoland, USA, in the Theater of the Wild. While I originally just wanted to make a video about my love for Finding Nemo the Musical, I figured I'd do a deep dive into the Theater of the Wild and the shows that have run there since Animal Kingdom opened in April of 1998. The shows are all vastly different from each other, and many things have changed with the theater itself over the years. So let's go back to Earth Day of 1998, also known as the opening day of Animal Kingdom. Dinoland USA was one of 6 themed lands in the Animal Kingdom when the park originally opened, not counting the entrance plaza, but was severely lacking in attractions. Dinoland was quickly rushed into production prior to the park's opening date after much time had been spent on Beastly Kingdom, a land based on mythical animals but was cut due to budget restraints. Not only was Dinoland cheaper to produce, it would serve to promote the 2000 CG film Dinosaur, that was currently in production at Disney. It was rushed so much that only 2 attractions existed in the area on opening day. One of them being Countdown to Extinction, renamed Dinosaur in 2000, and the stage show Journey into the Jungle Book. To quote a Disney World press release about the show, "The music and characters from the film step right out of what appears to be a giant multiplane picture book on stage. The show follows the story as the man-child Mowgli is raised among wolf cubs in the heart of an Indian jungle. He's befriended by Baloo the bear and Bagheera the panther, threatened by wily snake Kaa and the fierce Bengal tiger Shere Khan, as he reluctantly makes his way back to the man village." The show featured many puppets, which would become a staple of shows in the theater. What's cool about these puppets is their easy transformations. The actors could be hiding on stage as a bush and then quickly jump up for the next big dance number. The show also featured what Disney dubbed as humanimals, a costume technique that showed off the actor's face while disguising the rest of their body. However, according to thelaughingplace.com, the costumes were changed about 6 months into the show to more resemble the characters from the film, especially since the film had been very successful in the home video market, being one of Disney's top-grossing VHS sales each time it was re-released. When the show premiered, Disney was in the latter half of its Renaissance period, and focused more heavily on marketing those films in its theme parks, especially in its stage shows. During this time, MGM Studios featured shows based on 3 different Renaissance films: The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Animal Kingdom had Festival of the Lion King and a smaller show based around Pocahontas. With a new Disney film based in the jungle on its way into theaters, the Journey into the Jungle Book closed just a year after it opened to make way for Tarzan Rocks. This is not the end we'd see of the Jungle Book in Animal Kingdom, though. During the summer of 2016, Jungle Book, Alive with Magic, ran in the Discovery River Theater as a placeholder show for the upcoming Rivers of Light, which had been postponed due to technical difficulties. The show was a water projection show similar to Fantasmic, but featured clips and music from the 2016 live-action Jungle Book adaptation that had made its run in theaters earlier that spring. Two important concepts led to the conception of this show. The first being that Tarzan was the 5th highest grossing film of 1999 and Disney's insistence on including Renaissance film IPs in all of its theme parks. The second being a fan favorite show also running at Animal Kingdom, Festival of the Lion King. To summarize, Festival of the Lion King is a show that ran in Camp Minnie Mickey when the park opened, but moved to the Africa section of the park after Camp Minnie Mickey closed to make way for Pandora, the World of Avatar, in 2014. The show was different than most other stage shows at the time. While most other Disney performances in the parks were a simple retelling of a film incorporating the movie's more memorable songs into a 25-minute show, Festival of the Lion King was more of a celebration of the music and African heritage. Festival of the Lion King features the hit songs from the film, each being accompanied by some kind of stunt. For example, during Hakuna Matata, performers dressed as monkeys would do gymnastics involving a bar, hoops, and a trampoline. Be Prepared featured a fire eater. Can You Feel the Love Tonight featured aerial performers. The show was an instant hit with guests, and prior to the COVID-19 pandemic was a must-do for all guests visiting the animal kingdom. While I can find no physical proof of this, it can be assumed that Disney wanted another hit stage show on their hands. At this point in time, Animal Kingdom was seen as a dreaded half-day park. Most people viewed it as a zoo, even though Disney specifically marketed it to be otherwise. The park also closed earlier than all the others in order to get the animals put away in a timely manner, as most of them live in a backstage area of the park. This meant that most people didn't want to waste their money on a day at Animal Kingdom. Festival of the Lion King, however, really drew people in. Disney felt that they had another show similar to Festival of the Lion King, with its newest box office hit as the star, they'd have a bona fide hit on their hands. Enter Tarzan Rocks. The show opens with actors dressed as monkeys doing aerial stunts on ropes, while a live band performs two worlds. With the exception of the narrator at the beginning and Turk during the Trash in the Camp segment, there was no audio track, and all of the performance, including the instrumentation, was all live. The show had stunts like rollerblading, but mainly focused on aerial as Tarzan and Jane simulate swinging on vines multiple times throughout the show. The show also featured an audience participation segment during the Trash in the Camp segment, similar to I Just Can't Wait to Be King in Festival of the Lion King. While in Festival of the Lion King, audience members would be taught hand moves to dance along with the performers, audience members of Tarzan Rocks were encouraged to do their very own Tarzan yell, chest pounding and all. The show did relatively well during its run, gaining moderate reviews from fans. However, the show was doomed as soon as a certain Pixar film hit theaters in 2003. In 1998, the Submarine Voyage closed at Disneyland. It was a classic ride but required too much upkeep to afford to keep running in the park. Tony Baxter, one of the most famous Imagineers of all time, loved the Submarine Voyage and was desperate for a way to keep them going. They were set to be demolished after a canceled attempt at an Atlantis ride, but then Tony had an idea. Retheme them to Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo was a critical and financial darling for Disney and Pixar, and they wanted to promote the hell out of it. This meant keeping the submarine voyages, but adding characters from the film. The same was also done with the Living Seas attraction at Epcot, becoming the Living Seas with Nemo and Friends. With Tarzan Rocks being only a moderate success, Animal Kingdom being only a half-day park, and the incredible popularity of the other Finding Nemo attractions, Tarzan Rocks closed on January 21, 2006, to make way for Finding Nemo, the musical. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I'm not biased towards this show. I am. It's a must-do for me every time I go to Animal Kingdom, and it just makes me really damn happy. It's a 40-minute recap of the film, boasting a whopping 19 songs and a New York studio-recorded soundtrack. The show was immediately successful with fans. At this point, the theater got a whole new look. It was encased completely from the previous amphitheater and painted a nice blue color to simulate being underwater. The two things that people know most about this show are its incredible puppets, as you can see here, and the best song in the show, Big Blue World. If you've never seen this show but you've been on the Epcot ride, you know the song. It's the one at the end. Guys, I cry every time I listen to that song, but back to the puppets. They're a kind of rod puppet with two triggers attached to the end of a stick. One controls the mouth and the other the eyes. These puppets were so popular that in 2015, the Disneyland hit parade, Paint the Night, featured these puppets as walk-around characters during the performance. Other puppets are full-body puppets, such as Squirt, who's essentially a swing. The tech in this show is absolutely incredible. One of my favorite scenes is when Nemo is kidnapped. The actor playing Nemo is standing on a cliff, and their puppet is attached to a harness. They throw it, and it flies across the stage, only to be swept up by a net that comes down from the ceiling. The dentist is projected on a screen behind this. It's absolutely wonderful. Harnesses are used a lot through this show actually to simulate swimming, and it's such a smart move. Props to Michael Curry for designing the puppets for this show. He also did the costume design for Lion King on Broadway, so if that doesn't convince you to watch this show, I don't know what will. Seriously, go watch it. So I started this video talking about Robert and Kristen, and I'd like to circle back around to them. The music in this show is phenomenal. Kristen once said she treated this show with the same respect she did with the show that was going to be on Broadway, and you can absolutely tell. There is so much effort put into this. Each song in the show has a distinctly different style, all while keeping that classic musical theater vibe. The ending is also really great, referencing all of the previous songs in a small mashup, which is something that the Lopez's always do really well. See the ending of Frozen for an example. I love this show, and I'm going to stop rambling, but you should really go watch it. There's a ton of recordings on YouTube, and they're all wonderful. I just want to say that I love all of these shows. They all have a really distinct quality to them, unlike some of the other Disney shows in the parks that I don't like nearly as much. See Beauty and the Beast live on stage. I love out-of-the-box theater, and all of these shows really please me in that sense. If you're ever looking for some fun and short Disney productions, all of these will scratch that itch. However, according to many people, Finding Nemo has that something that other shows are missing. I spoke to Max Kennedy, a fellow Disney YouTuber who I will link in the description box below, who had this to say on Nemo's staying power. I think the impressive puppetry, catchy music, and effects are what set it apart. Also, it was written by the writers of Frozen, so that's a plus. I also asked people on r/defuntland, which I will also link in the description, what their thoughts on the show were, and why Finding Nemo is so much more engaging to watch. E. Madeline says, "The songs are incredibly catchy. I remember seeing it about 6 years ago and walking out humming Crush's song." Cubba added, "It's a well-written show with a few songs that can be quite the earworm, in the big blue world." And Pie on My Cake had this to say, "The songs are amazing. They're written by the same couple who made the songs for both Frozen movies." As you can see, most people really resonate with the show due to the music. Although both Jungle Book and Tarzan have excellent soundtracks, I personally believe that the addition of original songs to the show is what helps it stand apart. You'll be leaving the theater with a new selection of songs to learn and then subsequently belt out in the car. Something that really stuck out to me about these interviews, however, was something that Pie on My Cake went on to say in their answer, in which they talked about the Broadway-ness of the show. My word, not theirs. Let me set the stage. You're going to see a show on Broadway. It's an original story, not based on any prior media, and you've never listened to the cast album. You'll still be able to follow along just fine and enjoy the show like you would any other. This constitutes an issue with many of the shows in the Disney parks, which is why, as a critical viewer, I hate Epcot forever, but that's for another video. The main issue with Disney theme park stage productions is that you need to know the source material to follow the story. Most of these shows are just condensed versions of the film the show is based on. Take, for example, Voyage of the Little Mermaid. As someone who grew up with The Little Mermaid on VHS and DVD, I am very well sourced with the material that the production at Hollywood Studios is based on. However, the show is essentially just performances of the songs from the movie. Think about it. The show opens with Under the Sea. If you'd never seen the film before, I think you'd instantly be confused. Who are these characters? Why are they singing this song? Then it jumps to Part of Your World. Why is this girl so desperate to leave when we just watched a whole musical number convincing us how great the ocean is? If you've seen the film, you would know why. You understand the conflict. If not, it's a mess. While music in a musical is meant to advance the plot, you can't just cut out the script in between the music. Obviously, there are Broadway shows like Hamilton that almost exclusively music, but most Disney productions are not formatted that way. Let's return to Finding Nemo the musical. Pie on My Cake says, "A lot of the Disney park stage shows require at least being familiar with the film they're based on. Nemo can easily be fully enjoyed and appreciated separate from the movie." I couldn't agree more. While the music and puppetry are absolutely essential to this show's success, it explained the story to newcomers, just like a Broadway musical would. So there are my thoughts on Theater in the Wild. I hope you liked this video, and let me know if you'd like to see me cover any other topics with this kind of critical look. I loved making this video even though it took a lot of time. I think this is where my channel is headed in terms of content, so I hope you enjoy that. Anyway, subscribe, click the bell, all that YouTuber stuff. Follow me on my socials, and I'll see you next time.